We live in a world that is just obsessed with perfection. But what if I told you that our biggest failures, our deepest scars, what if those are actually the source of our greatest strength? Think about it. From the time we're kids, we're basically taught to present this flawless image to the world. At work, in our relationships, definitely online, we act like any crack in our story is something to be ashamed of, something we have to hide away. It sounds kind of crazy, right? The idea that the very things we try to hide, our mistakes, our heartbreaks, our failures, could actually make us more beautiful, more valuable, and believe it or not, more powerful. So today, we're going to dive into this ancient Japanese philosophy. It's called kintsugi, and it's not just an art form for fixing what's broken. It's a way of transforming it into something even more precious than it was before it ever shattered. And to really get our heads around this, let's start with a story. A story about a man who seemed to have it all, and then lost everything in an instant. Okay, so meet Lam. This guy was the dictionary definition of success. A brilliant architect, his work was all over these international magazines, and he was pouring his entire life, his time, his money, his reputation into his masterpiece, a cultural center that was supposed to be the crown jewel of his career. After months of just grinding, nonstop work, he presents his project to the city council. He's totally sure it's a slam dunk. And then, in just 15 minutes, it's all over. That's not what we're looking for. Boom. One sentence and years of effort just gone. And that rejection, it wasn't just about a building. Something inside him just cracked. The whole identity he had built up so carefully, Liam the successful architect, it just shattered like a piece of glass. And he did what most of us would do. He hid, canceled meetings, disappeared from social media, just pretended the whole thing never happened. But trying to pretend that crack wasn't there, well, that just made it bigger. He was totally paralyzed by this failure, completely stuck. That is, until his mother, who's born in Japan, stepped in to show him a different way forward. She introduced him to kintsugi. Now, the core idea is really simple, but it's also incredibly profound. You don't hide the break. You actually mend it with precious metals, turning the lines of fracture into these beautiful veins of gold, making the imperfection the most valuable part of the object. The process itself is basically a philosophy for life. First, you have to acknowledge the break happened. You can't deny it. Then, you carefully gather up all the scattered pieces. You rejoin them with something valuable. And then, and this is the key, you celebrate the object's unique history. It's not about erasing the past. It's about honoring it. I mean, this really shows two completely different ways of looking at the world, right? Our society teaches us that a crack is a sign of weakness, something to be thrown away. But kintsugi teaches that a crack is part of the story, something to be highlighted, which actually makes the object more beautiful and, funnily enough, more resilient. As Liam was repairing this little teacup his mother had broken, she told him, without the cracks, this cup was just like thousands of others. But now, with these gold lines, it's one of a kind. It's impossible to replicate. The damage isn't the end of the story. It's actually the beginning of a new, much more interesting one. So, armed with this whole new perspective, Liam was about to do something nobody saw coming. He was going to apply this art of golden repair to his own shattered career. He shared everything: the months of work, the 15-minute rejection, the despair. He wasn't selling perfection anymore. He was showing the messy process. He was highlighting his own cracks with gold. His colleagues, well, they thought he was committing career suicide. But the exact opposite happened. An investor reached out with this incredible message. He said, "I receive 50 portfolios a week from architects showing me only success. You're the first person who has shown me the truth. And the truth is what I want on my team." That investor, he became his biggest client. This gets at a really powerful paradox. We think showing our flaws makes us look weak. But when you admit a failure and you're still standing, people don't see weakness. They see proof that you can survive what would destroy other people. They see someone who's real. So look, this isn't just about pottery or architecture. This is about life. And every single time we break, we have a choice to make about how we're going to rebuild ourselves. And your gold, well, it can be anything. For some people, it's humor, finding a way to laugh through the pain. For others, it's wisdom, turning a really hard lesson into guidance for somebody else. It could be art, or, as Liam found out, it can be raw vulnerability, turning a failure into your most powerful credential. Just think about the entrepreneur who went bankrupt. Instead of hiding it, he started his very next pitch to investors by detailing every single mistake he made and what he learned. The result? He raised double the investment. See, people don't invest in perfection, they invest in proven survival.
You know, the most powerful thing that happens when you embrace your cracks is that you stop being so afraid. You actually gain the freedom to take real risks.
Years later, Liam's in this super high stakes meeting, and of course, his projector dies. The old Liam would have totally panicked. The Kintsugi Liam, he just smiled, set the laptop aside, and told the story of his biggest failure. He won the contract right there on the spot. And this isn't just some nice story. There's actually data to back this stuff up. Research from Harvard found that leaders who are open about their flaws actually build 43% more trust in their teams. Why? Well, because our brains are wired to connect with what's real. A perfect facade feels false, but a story of survival feels true. When someone asked Liam if he'd go back and change things to get that first project approved, his answer was a hard no. He said that the approved project would have given him a building, but the rejected one taught him that he was stronger broken and rebuilt than he ever was pretending to be whole. So let's end with this. Life is going to break you. Your career, your relationships, your dreams, they're all going to crack at some point. That's a guarantee. The real question isn't if it's going to happen, but what you're going to do when it does. Are you going to hide the cracks, or are you going to find the courage to highlight them with gold?